Let's humble ourselves for the prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for bringing us together today. We thank you for this opportunity you have granted to us to learn, share ideas, and to collaborate. We invite you as we start this meeting that you may grant to us the wisdom, the understanding, such that we can be able to take in what we are going to learn in this session. Help us to be able to listen in to one another with respect and also to act with integrity in all what we do. May this meeting be productive, peaceful, and purposeful. We commit all our plans and outcomes into your hands. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. You are most welcome, dear teachers. Thank you so much for keeping time for this session. On our call, we are blessed to have our facilitator, but also on our call, we have the Principal Education Officer from the Ministry of Education and Sports. And allow me at this particular moment to invite him to say a word and then to open up the session. Mr. Ronald, you are most welcome.
Mr. Kaziba, can you hear me?
Yes, you are very clear, Mr. Ronald.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank all of you who have joined this morning and to thank our presenter for accepting to be here with us this morning. I also want to thank you, Mr. Kaziba, for organizing this session. And I pray that we continue collaborating, working together for the betterment of ourselves as teachers, but also for the betterment of education in our country. As a ministry, we really look forward to collaboration across schools, across teachers, and such efforts should be able to help us grow better and be better teachers. I may not be able to attend all the session, but I will listen in when I can, and then we'll wait to also listen to the recording. I wish you the very best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Principal Education Officer, for those remarks. Allow me now to invite our facilitator, Mr. Matthias Mutema Mulumba, who is going to be taking us through this session. Mr. Matthias, you are most welcome.
Good morning, colleagues. Happy New Year to everybody. You are most welcome to our session of capacity building, such that we become up-to-date professionals as educators as we champion the competency-based curriculum. I would like to say, Mr. Kaziba and the Holistic Education team, we would like to thank you for creating this space for the educators to every time to have an opportunity to empower themselves, to share good practices, and to look for more knowledge on how they can do better in their job. Thank you so much. I want to thank all the participants who are on call. Thank you for giving up your time to be here to learn. Thank you so much as well. I would like to ask Mr. Kaziba to now share the slides. I will switch off the video such that the presentation can be more clear. Thank you. Our topic is to see that we streamline the best practices that you educators, that is the name that we are giving ourselves in 2026, we are able, as we transform the education sector and take on the role of facilitators, we become educators. And we shall be, from now on, I would request that we call ourselves educators and we continue educating this country and the world at large. So our session will have 3 outcomes. We want to expand our knowledge, skills, abilities of the best practices that can support competence-based education. We would like to see the linkages between learning outcome activities or experiences and the real world. Also, we would like to see how we can formulate project-based learning driving questions that are aligned to the teaching standard. So those are our goals today, and we shall be evaluating ourselves at the end of this session, how best or how much have we achieved on those 3 session outcomes. I would like now to start off quickly, and I want people to look at the picture. We have 1 minute to look at the picture and tell us your 2 key messages from this picture, which is illustrating how teaching and learning was taking place in the early days of humanity in Uganda. When you have the 2 key messages, you can write in the chat, or you can put up your arm, raise your hand, and we can pick you. Mr. Kaziba Bikin, when you say hand, you pick it, or when I see one, I also pick it. Over to you. We would like to see hands telling us what they see. Key message, I've already got some on the writing. I can see some here. They are coming. Wow, quite many. Many people have decided to write. And there is Nyalo Eric. Nyalo Eric, can you unmute and tell us?
Good morning. What I've seen there, most of the learning is hands-on learning. Like in the picture on the left, we find that somebody is cooking. But before you do that, you are always given material for you to handle. And you take the experience out of it.
We can now go to the chat room. In the chat room, we had quite a number of responses. 1, hunting. Yes, the number 2 from the first picture. Cooking in number 1. Then modeling teaching, how teaching was happening. Then it is skill-based. People are with skills. It is hands-on. That is what I'm seeing here in the chat. Learning by doing, yes. Making pots, yes. Hunting, again. learner-centered, activity-based, applicable teaching, hands-on twice, doing what is relevant to them, hands-on teaching, learners participating, and then learning after field experience, hands-on learning, the teacher is available for the learners, practical. I would like to stop at that in reading the chat. Groups, yes, learning in groups, collaboration. Thank you so much, because as the session was being opened, I heard the first two speakers, Kaziba and Dungu, emphasizing we need to collaborate. So collaboration there is key. So as we go to the next slide, all of these are part and parcel, and there is no single answer. But what were the characteristics of the people who were given the responsibility of teaching at that time? Can you give us some idea of the characteristics of those people who were given the responsibility of teaching? Again, I would like to get hands. Elders, great. One person has already written in the chat, elders were the people. So you must have age, particular age to be declared an elder. That is great. Being there, ever there, was key as the person responsible for teaching. They were supposed to be skillful. Great. The teacher were knowledgeable and they were available. Again, elders with the experience in a specific field. They had the experience. They were researchers. They were demonstrating what they know. They had the prior experience in their field. They had authority. Now, members, you realize they are describing us as educators. You are describing our characteristics expected of us as educators. And one person has said it was based on tradition or economic activity of the society at that time. These people were mentors. So we can go on and on, but you see how many of those that have been put in the chat are part of you, because you are the one now taking the mantle of training our younger ones. If those characteristics are key, do we possess them as educators? So that is the first part. So as we go to the next slide, I would like to emphasize the educators had the key responsibility. Their responsibility in teaching, they responded to the situation, somebody said to the economic situation at that time. These people were there and they were using real-world opportunities to teach. These people were conversational. They shared their experiences because they were elders. And the conversation was key. They were people who belonged to the community, so cooperation was key, or collaboration was key, as mentioned earlier on. One person said they were very, very practical. They were experimenters. Their authority was epistemic. It was based on their respected professional skill. They said you talked of being specialized in a given area. Through their life experiences, it was not about titles. It was about what you know and you want to impart it in the younger one. So they were chosen based on their social status, their practical expertise, and personal relationship with learners. So are we having this in ourselves? Are we taking a lesson from this historical perspective of those who were teaching the younger people such that they become the elders of tomorrow? We have the same responsibility as educators, and that is what we need to think about as we champion competence-based education. So it is important that we move to the next slide and see how the teacher of today is. The teacher of today, around 2016, the Ministry of Education and Sports produced a competency profile of a secondary school teacher in Uganda. And this is in line with the most recent advert from Education Service Commission. When they were advertising for the teachers who are going to do the interviews soon, they looked at the competency profile. Some of the duties of a secondary school teacher. The word teacher here is paramount because that was the most catching word at that time. And one of the duties was to participate in planning of school programs. So the term is going to begin now. Are you participating in planning the school programs? There are quite a number of tasks for you to do. That you participate in administrative or determining the school activities of the term. You participate in implementing the actions of the school activities. You participate in budgeting. You participate in allocating resources, and so on and so forth. Some of you can participate being members of the procurement committee. You participate in procurement. Also, you participate in staff development like we are doing now. If there is a development plan for the school, many schools have organized during this week some workshops. Have you been able to participate? So that is one of your cardinal duty, participating in planning school programs. Another activity is to prepare teaching and learning activities. Another activity or duty is to deliver teaching and learning activities. Then another duty is to assess learning. And when I look at this, on the other side, the advert of the teacher, the education officer that they want, the first one is to prepare schemes of work, lesson plans, teaching and learning activities in line with the approved curriculum. That is the first one. Then conduct lessons for the students, participate in setting and marking, then carry out continuous assessment, then attend general staff meetings, departmental meetings, and committee meetings, guide and counsel the younger people, keep and maintain records, participate in co-curricular activities, and so on and so forth. And the qualification, you must have a degree. Somebody is in the chat is asking, I should highlight the duty of assessment. What is expected in the duty of assessment? One is to prepare assessment activities. Two, it is to determine the areas of assessment. Which areas are you going to use for assessment? Another one is to set objectives for your assessment. Another one is to prepare assessment instruments and tools. Then you moderate the assessment instruments. You prepare at that time their scoring guides. Then You prepare resources that you will use for assessment. Then you sensitize learners on the assessment rules and regulations. Then you administer the assessment. Then you assess the competencies or learning outcomes. You prepare score sheets. You analyze assessment results, and you provide feedback to the learners. So these are the tasks. The duty is assess learners. That is your duty. But you have several tasks. And so this competency profile was based on competence-based education. What can you do in real life that is relevant, meaningful for society? So those are the expectations of the secondary school teacher. This competence profile handbook is online. You can download it and read for yourselves. It describes very well your roles, your duties, your tasks as a teacher of secondary school in Uganda. We can move, and as we look at this, the first the second most important thing that we saw in the early teaching approach was that it is informal and the learning process was key. And the learner had to get real experiences. And when you do that, the learner owns. There is ownership of what you are learning. And what you get as a learner, you show tangible skills, tangible products. You saw the animal had been killed and they are hunters. Oral services. You saw the pottery trainer is preparing containers to hold our liquids. So the participants are expected to learn. In turn, they become proficient and they master what society expects them to do. And they can do it in a range of situations. Take, for instance, the younger people who were being trained to hunt. You can hunt in the forest, but you can hunt in the grasslands. Those were different situations where you can hunt. Then the one who was preparing the meal, you can prepare a meal for only yourself, you prepare for the whole family, and you can prepare for the visitors. You needed to have those skills. So in that way, we are now looking at learning outcomes. What do we see you capable of doing that is relevant and meaningful to society? So that is the notion. Informal education was based on that. And now, as we prepare the competence-based education curriculum in Uganda, the key and starting point is the competency, then the next is the learning outcome. So, as we look, it becomes out-based education. This is where you start with clear concepts. A concept is a global idea. Then, clear learning outcomes. As I've said, it defines what the learner will be able to do is key. Then it is learner-centered, where you focus on each individual growing and learning. Then learning does not stop in the classroom. Learning becomes a lifelong process where the knowledge, the skills, the abilities go beyond the person training you, beyond the community where you live, across the globe. You can use it. So that is the demand that is on us, which we need to start looking at. The beauty is that the concepts and learning outcome have already been written by the Curriculum Development Center. Now, our next step is to use those learning outcomes to make learning learner-centered, as you mentioned earlier on, from the informal education that happened in the early times. Then, how to ensure that learning goes beyond our schools, our colleges, and our universities. It is lifelong. So when we do that, then our role as educators will be very impactful and enduring. So I'm calling upon you to reflect on how you are going to work on these three. How do you interpret these concepts that are in the syllabus? How are you going to unpack the learning outcomes in the syllabus such that when you unpack them, you are equipping the learner to do something, and the learner is taking the center stage. As the learner takes the center stage, the learning becomes enduring, because the Chinese tell us, involve me in what you are teaching me, and I will bring fish every day to my plate. But if you just give me a fish piece, I will stay hungry the rest of my time. So that is what we need. That if I'm being taught fishing, it should be lifelong. I can fish in a smaller pond, I can fish in a river, I can fish in a lake, I can fish in an ocean. All of those opportunities must be available to the learner. And as we look, this learning involves or starts, many people emphasize that knowledge is key. But knowledge has another concentric circle of skills. Knowledge should be transformed into skills. And if it is to work in real life, your attitude and values play a big role. If your attitude is saying, oh, there are so many people in my class, and how will I manage them? I would just stand in front and I will not help them at all. I would just, so long as they have seen me in the class. It reminds me one of the investors when secondary schools were being started, private secondary school, who told me, you see, I have here 4 classrooms, and it was a school in Kampala. One class are those you teach and they write a quarter page. And that was selected for that purpose, a quarter page. In a lesson of 80 minutes, they write a quarter page. Another group, you write half a page. Do not give them a lot of work, because they are my customers. If you give them a lot of work, they will not come back. Then another group, 3/4 of a page. And there was a smaller class which had 40 students. And for them, he said, you can do as much as possible in the 80 minutes, because for them, they are ready to learn more. And I've separated them that way. And I don't want to lose any of them. And that was the briefing when 5 of us had come to get a job from that man. And it keeps ringing in my head. Was he differentiating the learners? And so on. So when you could go to that class where it is a quarter page, in the 80 minutes, you only make fun most of the time. And you write one sentence every after 10 minutes. You make another fun. And he demonstrated to us how you could make the lesson such that they write only a quarter page. So all that, for him, it was marketing, his business. For us, he was now telling you, give them little, but remain with the concept. So if you went there with an attitude, the other students could even jump out of the class through the window. You could say, why waste my time? I'll go and sit with them and we chat about football. So that could be one way of doing it. And that would be your attitude. So, or then the man had a value. The value was only profit. That was his goal. The value was only profit. How do I make profit out of these many Ugandans? He understood the market dynamics of his business. And the value was extracting money from all these learners and then have a staff which he can use to extract money. And he left a very big building in Kampala, which is a very big school. So he had the knowledge, he had the skills, he had the attitudes, but his value was the overarching making profit. So even you yourself, what are your values as you do the teaching and learning activities? What is your attitude? What are your skills? And what knowledge do you have? So it is important as we prepare in competency-based to think about those concentric circles. When I visited Japan, I discovered in Japan, values are key. If they are going to have a meal, they exhibit values. And after having the meal, everybody says, thank you. And they carry away the plates and wash the dishes. But finally, the chairs they have been sitting on, they don't leave them where they sat, they push them into the dining table. And if you don't do that, they call you back to do it. It is a value. Then you clean the table. You must leave it the way you found it. At best, if you leave food on the plate, you pay for it. You pay for a full plate because they have a value that eat what you think you can manage to eat, not just be greedy about food. So you must have a measure what will satisfy you, such that if you don't serve, they can use it to give those who are underprivileged, but when it is not contaminated. So they have respect of those who are underprivileged. They respect them, that they don't receive leftovers. They receive real food that you have served yourself who have, when it is not touched up at all. So values is key. They have the knowledge, they have the skills, they have the values, attitudes, all integrated in just serving a meal. During our time, if an elder was passing and his things fell, you, the younger people, you ran very fast to help the elder. Today, our children, when they see somebody struggling elder there on the road, they just look on. They don't even support because we have lost values. Can we find a way of building values as we teach and work with the younger people? Value is part and parcel of being competent. So we can get very many examples in our society where values have gone to the dogs. And we have a duty as educators to work on values. People also coming to work, when they come late, You have gone to an office, you are expecting to meet an officer, and he's not there. He comes at 9. And when they go for lunch, they come back at 3. So that is an attitude issue. Lunch is supposed to be for 1 hour. How do you go at 1, you come back at 3, you have taken 2 hours. That is an attitude issue. So as we work with the curriculum, values are key and they must be integrated. Attitudes are key. They must be integrated. Skills are key. They must be integrated, and knowledge. But all of these in a competency-based curriculum, they make us to transit from only imparting facts or ideas or terms. Like my colleagues here in geography, they will tell you, we are giving you the terms that are important on this topic. In science, they will say, oh, we are giving you the laws that govern matter. Excuse me. So you find that is good according to that setting. But when it comes to competence-based education, we are going to climb the ladder from the terms, the synonyms, or the explanation sentences to concepts. We are going to go slightly higher. The terms are good. We call them nice to know. The synonyms are good, or the examples, but they are just nice to know. But what really we need to know, understand, and use are concepts, as we are going to see. So, members, I have here an example of that transition, and I want to use physics. Newton observed an apple or a fruit falling from a tree and created for us laws in physics. But he went ahead to find out at what speed does it fall, in which distance does it fall. And he realized that an object falls at an acceleration of 9.8 meters per second. He established a fact. But that fact is part of a big concept called gravity. So a concept is a mental grouping of similar objects or events or ideas or people. It is an umbrella holding many objects and or events or ideas. So gravity as a concept has many ideas in it. Like I've mentioned, acceleration. But there is the height. If it is a mango tree, the mango can be very far away high. If it is an orange, it can be very high. But we can have fruits that are near the ground. They are just about 60 centimeters above the ground. They will also fall under gravity. So that is key. Gravity also enables us to know an idea that planets are held around the sun, like the earth is held around the sun by the force of gravity or by gravity. That is a specific application of the concept of gravity. So if you are a teacher of physics and you are talking about gravity, do you only first teach Newton's law, leave them there? Then the solar system, you leave it there? Or they need to come close to each other? because the central thing in the umbrella is gravity. But the umbrella covers us in that dome shape. So it has different, I can call them cones or what in mathematics. Each cone represents some facts and some ideas. So that is, we are now going to transit. Instead of emphasizing the facts and ideas, we are going to emphasize concepts because they work in different situations. And when we are assessing or when we are writing the learning outcomes in the future, if they were not written that way this time, in the future we shall be emphasizing that the learning outcomes are placed at the level of concepts. So we can move and see more about this transition. As I mentioned earlier, competence is measured by performance. Performance, we want to see you do. So what you can do in real life with what you know. Because if I know very many things, like when I was teaching agriculture, I used to teach all the children about the engine, and they thought I was a very good mechanic. But when I have never done troubleshooting of an engine, I had never done it. So I had a lot of facts, and that is having information. And when I bought my first car, the electrical system, which I had taught very well for over 18 years or 10 years, broke down and my engine could not start. I had to call a mechanic. But when it was only that the wire to the battery had just slipped off and got disconnected. And that is what he did, and the engine started. So I didn't have the insights of the engine and how it works. I could not have the real life experience, but I was able to teach. And when the students did the numbers on mechanization, the tractor engine, they got all of the marks. But if I asked them to do it practically, like we could say, bleeding the engine, none of them and myself could do it. So we were just having information which was not meaningful to us in real life. So a learner who has synthesized the concept of force can explain why a car moving on a rainy day would need more distance to stop, even if the engine has been switched off. Currently, people calculate what was the acceleration of the trolley. That's what they calculate, and they stop at that. They don't even show, because the trolley is an imagination of this force, how it moves. But the trolley, they don't put it in the real life situations. You know, in real life, it rains. The trolley is a model of a car or a bus or the plane on at the landing airport. If it is raining, you switch off the engine, but the distance at which you stop is not the one that is used when it is a dry day. So such learners who have the capacity to synthesize situations, they have an insight, and they can face the world better than those who have information. So such learners are the ones we need. We don't want those learners who can recite facts and ideas without analyzing them, without tearing them apart and putting them in real life situations. So force can be another concept, but it works in all of those topics that you can see on the screen. In magnetism, it will be there. In friction, it will be there. That one is much easier to know that there is frictional force. It is very easy. Motion. Some people may not see that the movement of the car on the road is force. But that is force as a big concept, is the umbrella. Then what covers us in the dome of the umbrella are the magnets, friction, and others that talk about force. The pulleys and so on. So we are now going to focus on force, and these will be just situations where force works in real life. Next, you realize that as we move under traditional learning, you can teach and learn facts. Friction slowing things down. Magnets pulling or pushing things at a distance. And here I can emphasize, the learners who had learned magnetism well, where some people in the physics had compartmentalized it as modern physics. They are the children who made for us the remote for the TV. You can control the TV at a distance, and you are using magnetism. They are the people who learned the concept of force in its application. They have made a drone which can take pictures for us without touching without touching it itself. It just moves up. It is pulled by magnetism. It takes the pictures. It even edits them with your hands on your laps. You are not touching it. That is what we need in real life. Not knowing that magnetism, there is a North Pole and a South Pole. So what? So in CBE, competence-based education, you examine how these interact to define the concept of force. So to do that, you need to go to what are the commonalities in friction, magnetism, motion. What are the commonalities? One is interaction of things or objects. Friction is an interaction between the surfaces. Magnetism is an interaction between fields. The field around the North Pole and the South Pole, there is interaction. And I remember in one of the science lessons, we were looking for the neutral points where the magnetic field could not have any action. So those are the things that we are looking at. There is an interaction. There is energy transfer. So energy is part of force. And the kinetic theory of matter is part of force because the particles of matter are moving and randomly moving. So you begin to see force as a way of transferring energy. Friction transfers motional energy into heat. Magnets transfer potential energy into motion. So you realize I don't need a question on energy, friction, motion, magnets, and forces. That is still one concept. And that is key in understanding competency-based, because in real life, all of these 5 and more work together to make a meaning which is relevant. So that is the way how competency-based looks like. But in the traditional teaching, each knowledge, each fact was looked at as a standalone. And when you left school, you could not use them because they were standalone, they were independent of each other, and you can't see how they function together. So predictability. You predict change. And that's where the calculation is come. Calculation is just a ways of predicting how things will work in real life. But the focus of many of our science, they give a lot of marks on the calculation, it's not on the application. And that is where we have challenges. So, members, I would like, we could do it in all of the subjects, we can do it. And demonstrate to you that concepts is key. In agriculture, we have concepts. In mathematics, we have concepts. In history, we have concepts, as we shall see. So, the time we have, one person is saying, can you use an example? Let us take mathematics, or let me use geography. In geography, many of us talk about building materials. Yes. Do we have building materials? Yes. Who can give me examples of building materials just to demonstrate that it doesn't work only in science, it can work for geography as well? Some examples of building materials in our life. Who can mention some? I've seen sand, good. On the chart, there is one person who has said sand. Another one, nails, yes. And you can elaborate on nails. Where do we get nails from? Then cement, yes. Where do we get cement from? Soil, yes. Can be used in the mud and the water houses. Timber, yes. Rocks, yes. Bricks a lot. Iron bars, rock aggregates. Thatch grass, yes. Cow dung, yes. Water, papyrus, reeds, and so on. Nails are got from iron. And still, somebody is saying that. Iron sheets, metals. Now, what is the source of all of these materials? What is the source? What is the source of all of these materials mentioned so far? Somebody in the chat can tell us the source of all those above materials that people, nature. So the concept is natural resources. That is the concept, natural resources. That is the concept we are handling in geography. What are the natural resources? And they have the DNA in natural resources is physical geography, is human geography, and sustainable use of resources. That is the DNA. Physical geography will talk about water as a natural resource. Human geography will talk about how we are using sand to make settlements. Then sustainability. How do we ensure that for us who are living now are using the resource, and those who are to come in the future will use the resource, the natural resources. So somebody is talking about timber. When you cut the trees now, will the children, our grandchildren who will come in 2050 be able also to cut the trees? So what do you do to ensure sustainability? You first talk about the dangers of deforestation, then you do tree planting. So natural resources is a concept in geography. And it is the umbrella. And when you look at that umbrella in the dome shapes that is covering you when you are walking in the rain or the sunshine, those pieces of cloth on the umbrella, each one can be, water is a natural resource, rocks is a natural resource, forest is a natural resource, and so on. You find that is key. And I don't need a question on all of them. I just need one question: assessing natural resources. So this is how we should look at our teaching and learning in a competence-based curriculum. We can quickly focus our efforts on this idea that natural resources, we have different situations where they can be used, and the interplay that occurs between them will create challenges that the learners must discover and make a decision about. For instance, if you are cutting or extracting rocks in Tororo to get fertilizers and cement, you can see you are going to use some either machines to break the rocks, then transport the rocks, the environment will be polluted, and so on, but then you will get your cement. The cement becomes a binding material for blocks and bricks. So it is important to bind the blocks and bricks. You will need water to make a mortar. So there is an integration there already between water as a natural resource and rocks as a natural resource. But it's going to create human settlement. The infrastructure, the roads, the houses, and so on. So that is another example. We can go on and on and on. If we went to religious education, so you find it also working. The message from God can be delivered in very many different topics. Worship is one of them, and many others. Let us go back to here and conclude where we were. What can you do with what you know? Go the next slide. Kaziba, the next slide. I was demonstrating there that you switch off the engine, but the car continues moving forward. We're on a rainy day. So the physical world or the real life works in such a way that it combines many things together. That is what I wanted to demonstrate. We can move to the next slide and say, what do you see in this picture? A quick share of hands here or in the chat. People should tell us what they are seeing in the picture. I'm waiting for the hands or the chat right up. Somebody has seen a school. Great. A school again. Great. Someone cutting a tree. Yes. Benches. Correct. A man cutting wood, cutting down trees. A man cutting trees, an office. Someone reading using a laptop, correct? Someone destroying shade, a computer. A woman seated on a computer. A school bursar collecting money, secretary of the school, and so on. But I want now, because cutting the tree has come out so many times, let me go back to somebody is raising his hand up. Then I want to go back to cutting the tree. We got the next. What did this man require to do to cut the tree? What did this man need to do first before cutting the tree? With the tool he has, an axe. What did he do with the axe? Sharpening it, the knowledge of how to use it, the energy to be able to lift it, eating some good food to have the energy for the work, understanding the environment around such that he doesn't cut the tree and it falls on the building, and so on. So you can realize that to cut the tree, there are a number of things. One of them, environmental awareness, is key. 2, the skills. 3, the knowledge, and so on. But also eating the food, as some people have said. But it goes to application of physics, simple machines and wages in real life. To me, as teachers or as educators, as we transition and become facilitators, we need the tools, as one person has mentioned up there. We need the tools through training, the skills, the knowledge to deliver a competence-based curriculum. But when we have them, we must sharpen them, as one person has mentioned. Sharpen our tools, sharpen our knowledge, sharpen our skills. And that is when I come in to thank Holistic Education and the team for creating this opportunity such that we can get more knowledge, we can share and learn and sharpen our working tools in teaching and learning. So when we got the next slide, Abraham Lincoln emphasized that give me 6 hours to chop down a tree. I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. So this is what we used to tell people in early 2020 and 2022. To prepare a good competence-based lesson, you need more time as an educator. And Gail Godwin emphasizes that. That lady says, good teaching is 1/4 preparation and 3/4 theater. So when you go to the classroom, it will be theater. And that's why we get the academic noise. In a theater, people are always in fun, just shouting, excited, and smiles, and sometimes being annoyed because of a particular instance in the act. So all those good teaching, we prepare. But the action is for the learner. They will act. It is a theater. They must act. That is what Godwin says. And we are using this session to sharpen our axe. And we need to sharpen it every time. So continuous professional development, which is in the teacher policy. In the teacher policy, continuous professional development is key in that policy. CPDs will be required of you as teachers. You will need to do continuous professional development. During continuous professional development, which is on page 37, there will be continuous learning in this national teacher policy. So it is important. This is another opportunity. And when holistic education becomes more grounded, these 2 hours could be computed into notion hours for the teachers, and each attendant could get credit notional hours, which could be part that you present to UNITE or to another university, and they waive off some of the course modules that you are going to learn. And that is the future. And I've seen it in the accountancy career. For them, if they attend such a workshop like we are doing now, it becomes, if it is 2 hours, you get notional hours computed for you. So, and they require all of the accountants every year to go for training of not less than 40 hours. And that is how the accountants are doing. And that is a good lesson we need to pick and bring it in teaching profession. It is a good practice. And I know by the end of this year, you will be hearing the qualification framework for Uganda, and it will be demanding you to have your notional hours well computed every year as a teacher or as an educator. And the basis will depend on you to choose when to do your own continuous professional development. It will depend on you, largely on you. So as we work, we need to sharpen, and as somebody has said, we need in-service CPDs. Already there is an organization, VVOB, is having CPDs for you to train. I know PEAS is having. I know Educan will be having, British Council, and so on. Those organizations are going to organize CPDs for teachers. And when that time comes, participate and get the notional hours. They have 5 years funding where the teachers need to participate. And I know they will need over 67,000 teachers to participate in CPDs. So the opportunity is there. Starting in March this year, they will be having a lot of work for you to do. Next, we can move. So what is competence? Already I've said this, and I will continue saying it. Your ability to gather a set of skills, knowledge, attitudes, and resources to address contextualized problems, including the wicked ones. Like when you are training and you go to the IVO to get a driving license, most of the days the IVO is working, and sunny days there is no rain. But when you come to the road, you find a rainy day when you were not assessed on it by the IVO. You find where there is a lot of sand on the road, and if you are on a bicycle, it wobbles. Or if you are not having a 4-wheel drive, you slow down. But the IVO at Naguru, for instance, in Kampala, I don't see there where it is having a lot of sand, and you have to go there and it tests you on that area. But when they give you the driving license, you come on the road, you will find these wicked problems. They are complex. They have very many layers, and there is no one straightforward answer or response. So this definition is the one that governs teaching and learning in a competency-based education situation. And that is why our assessment needs to be tailored towards that, because teaching, learning, and assessment are together. They are a triplet living together. So many of you want to say, what is Newton's law? That is good. What are the different types of faulting in geography? That is good. Why was the scramble there in history? That is good, but that is the nice to know. It is not the most important idea people need to know when they are learning in a competence-based. It is just a nice to know. It's not the great idea the learners should go with as they leave school. In mathematics, you can talk about the shapes, the different geometrical shapes. Yes, it is good for people to know. The area of a triangle, it is good. The area of a shaded part, it is good. It is just a nice to know. It is not the great idea that children should know. The great idea the children should know when we are dealing with geometric shapes, how do I make a shirt or a dress for a person? How do I build the church or the mosque using geometric shapes? It is about space and measurement, which is the big idea that we should focus. How do we use space and measurements in real life? And then the area of a triangle becomes part of that. The perimeter becomes part of that. The area of a shaded part becomes part of that. Similarities and enlargement becomes part of that. Proportions, percentages, they all come in space and measurement. So it is important for all of us to appreciate what we are dealing with, because in the past 5 years, we have many people who are still struggling with appreciating what competence-based education is all about. It is to prepare people to handle problems with very many responses. It is not a one-size-fits-all. There are many responses to one wicked problem. And it is the role of that educator to prepare learners to have that. Like if we have a birthday party as an issue, the way it is handled by Kaziba is not the way Justus will handle it, not the way Gertrude will handle it, or Ronald will handle it, or Fiona, or Teddy. All of us, we shall handle it in a different way, but the other thing will be the birthday. And when it happens in Justus's home, and another one is happening in Mulumba's home at the same time, the difference is there, but the pillars will remain of a birthday party. So that is what we need to know. Even in the responses of the learner, we shall have multiple responses. It is not a one-size-fits-all like in the past, where you had only one definition for Newton's law, one definition for finding the area of a triangle. It doesn't work that way. Or one way of explaining the rural migration. It is not the only way. We are going to look at migration as historical awareness. Simple. Just an historical awareness. And how it plays out as a concept of historical awareness. It has the rulers, the kingdoms. It has those migrations. It has the economic activities during the pre-colonial societies, and so on. So when we are assessing, we bring a wicked problem or a situation where all those are at play. We can move next. So we start, as I've mentioned, I've given this background of what competence-based is. And when that competence-based has been talked about, the way I've talked about it, then we go to what National Curriculum Development Center did, was to develop for us a curriculum framework. The curriculum framework has 4 things I want to emphasize: what to learn, how to know that you have learned, and how to report achievement. So 4 things are there in that document. That translates into a syllabus. The syllabus, like this one, I'm using agriculture, but we have them on the website of NCDC. So the syllabus is now becomes a section drawn out of the curriculum framework. And we have agreed we are going to work on the syllabus using a competence-based approach. So what we did in the syllabus was to put the topics, because we were making a transition from the knowledge-based curriculum where most people knew topics. So we started from what you know. Then we put there the competence. And finally, the learning outcome. But the learning outcome was unpacked in activities. In the syllabus, when you got the detailed page of the syllabus, they give you suggested learning activities. So the list is not exhaustive. The list is far, far bigger. You can, each learning outcome, you can have over 120 activities you can do. It is not, it depends on you as the teacher, how you are going to unpack the learning outcomes in the 120 activities. And those activities should be reflecting real life. But start with what people know. Start from the known. Then you go to the unknown. And the unknown side is where the wicked problems exist. Fine, we can go to the next. So, when you have unpacked the learning outcome, you create lessons. Because preparing lessons was one of the duties of the educator in the competence profile. So that you prepare a lesson. So my thinking, when I asked Google AI to create for me a picture of what a lesson is. Like this time you will welcome back learners with your open hands. The open hands should be saying, I'm going to lead with care. I'm the one leading, but with care, the learners. I'm going to empower minds. I'm going to support growth. I'm going to allow sharing of knowledge in my learning spaces. And I will do it with an open heart, so that I nurture potential. I asked AI to do this for me, and now I have a picture for it. Because that is what I expect your lesson is to be doing as you teach. Reflect or say, wait a minute, am I reading with care? Am I making the cognitive part of the learning to make the learner more empowered to handle situations from all directions? Am I scaffolding the learner to grow from what they know to what they don't know? Supporting growth. Am I sharing or creating opportunities for sharing knowledge, which is co-creation? And that is very key in competence-based. And that is what I did in the beginning. I asked you to respond to questions. I wanted to co-create this presentation in the first hour. So you are there, you have to do a set of learning experiences that will deliver your topic, your activities, and you use the learning outcome. You can have brief activities, or you can have extended activities, as we shall see towards the end. I want to quickly say all of the lessons that you do in a competency-based, they should be pointing to a terminal objective, a terminal learning outcome. And that is what, at the end of the cycle, what should be assessed. During the topic, you assess. That one, we call it basic learning outcome assessment. At the end of the year, it is an intermediate assessment. We have 3 assessments in competency-based that are at the end, each end. End of the topic, basic. End of the year, intermediate. And at the end of the cycle, terminal. Learning outcome assessment. So we should be pointing the guns towards that. And that's why the concept idea and the construct idea comes to play out. We can move quickly. So lesson planning, the teacher asks many questions. What am I teaching? How will I teach it? Whom am I teaching? Then constantly in the room, when learning and teaching is going on, are the students understanding? I can add on, can they apply in real life situation? That is how I can quickly change. We can move. So many people have talked about that, why lesson planning is important. But planning is not just organization. It is the vision. And our vision now is competency-based. Now the strategies are the knowledge integration, context, real life experiences, then persistence, giving the learner as many opportunities as possible. They fail, they do again, they come with lessons, you share, they work. So you plan, you prepare, and perform. What can you do is the goal at the end. It's the vision, being able to do in real life, in a relevant way, and impactful way. So what needs to are the learners going to have as activities and experiences? What comes first and what comes last? How do I break it up such that the learners can easily understand it and see how they can apply it in real life? Where should I be as the educator during all of this interaction? You can be the observer, you can be the coach, and what will you be doing in that situation? Then, what is our final destination? Have the end in mind as you start. What is the end in mind? We can move to the next and say, I've explained here. So I decided to pick physical education syllabus. So when I selected a learning outcome, I went to the topic of basic learning skills, and there was a learning outcome to make improvised sports equipment from local material, which can be used during their practice of baseball running. Basic learning skills, something like that. So that was the focus. So you look at the syllabus, that is your starting point. You look at the program planner. When is this one? Like now, we are going term 1 of the different classes. Then you got the topic. For this one I picked was in term 2. But you need to follow the program planner. That is the key message here. And you go and select the learning outcome. And the one I've picked is making improvised sports equipment from local materials, which can be used during their practice. So you don't only say, what are the improvised sports equipment? And the children list. What are the advantages and disadvantages they list? They must make them. And they must be used during practice. Making is one step, but using them in real practice is key, such that they see, is the material durable? Can it allow us to have the game for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 90 minutes? Depending on the time, the basic skills are being developed. So they check all that. If it is raining, will this material work? It is local, yes. But will it work if it is raining? They must use it during practice. Imagine you have gone to the playground and you are doing some basic skills of skipping the rope and it is raining. Will the material stand the rain? If I left it in the sunshine, will I use it next day? Or it will break? All of those, the learners should experience them hands-on. We can move. So as learning outcome, teaching, and assessment, it is a cycle. What knowledge or skills should students acquire? Should you think about that? What activities will help students achieve these outcomes? You should think about that. And how are these knowledge and skills measured? How will I measure? Those are your fundamental questions. We can move to the next. Suggest what you do first when you have to travel. Members, can you suggest in the chat? I want suggestions here. In the chat, I'm not seeing the answers. The hands I'm not seeing. Kaziba, have you seen a hand?
Not yet, but I'm seeing some answers in the chat.
Okay.
Are you able to see them?
I'm going to there. I prepare transport means. I've seen that one. I pray, I pack. I have money. I know where I'm traveling to. That is where I want to stop. I know, and we got the next slide. I know where I'm going to. So, when you have identified where to go for a reason, then you ask them to drop a pin for you. If I integrate ICT, I ask for a pin to be dropped. So the first thing is to know the destination, why it matters, what the journey will be like. So when you are on the journey, you will have very many activities you will do. And what you need that is fit for that journey. So the tools, materials, and equipment becomes part. So this is the analogy that we use in competency-based. Know the destination. What will the children do many years when they have left school with what I'm teaching them? So we can move next. That what is this person known for? Chiporotich. What is this person known for? Chiporotich? Athletics. Great. Athletics. We can move next. So suggest one sport that you engage in as an educator. He's engaged in something, but for you, suggest one sport. So I want to see people, what are your sports that you are engaged in? I can see debating is a sport, football, basketball, netball, football, volleyball, chess, field hockey, golf. Oh, very many things here. We can go to the next slide. As people feel cricket, you realize not everybody is putting it. Moses, Mr. Moses, tell us the sport. Unmute and tell us. Moses, Mr. Moses. Moses, unmute and tell us. I'm missing Moses. He has refused to unmute. Okay. Some people, when I asked them, what is Chiporotich known for? They were not sure about that subject. Others had one idea about that subject. Others had several ideas about that subject. Like holding that flag is marketing Uganda. Just holding that flag. But is also earning income. That is another idea. Is physically fit is another idea. So you know several ideas about Chiporotich. You can link the ideas to see the big picture. Sports increases our gross domestic product. That is the big idea. It is one of the contributors of gross domestic product. And when Chiporotich has gone outside and won a big sum of money, Revenue Authority picks some of it from him. So it is about GDP. That is the big picture. But Chiporotich can use his skills. For instance, if there is no transport from Kapchorwa to Mbale, for him, he will just start running and he will be in Mbale. That is a new and unknown situation that has emerged. During COVID-19, some people walked 40 kilometers, others were jogging 40 kilometers. When COVID hit us, it was an unfamiliar situation. So if you are having people who are learning, who are in front of you, they follow these stages to be competent. And that one brings in a new taxonomy called solo taxonomy. Solo taxonomy has 5 stages, and we can use it for teaching, where you begin when some of the learners have no idea. But also, and then you go on building the number of ideas they have until you reach where they can look at the idea in many new and unfamiliar ways. That is for teaching. But you can also use it to assess how they respond to items. And you will see them differentiated that way, how they respond. So, solo taxonomy is new to some of us. It is not new, but it is new on the Ugandan landscape. And it's the one that you can also work with when teaching and learning of concept is taking place. Because the nice to know ideas, they are at unistructure level. You know something about moles in chemistry. That is unistructure. You know about heat exchange in chemistry, endothermic and exothermic reactions. That is unistructure. But when you know that people were going on Mountain Rwenzori, mountains of the moon, require clothes and liquid container carriers that use exothermic and endothermic knowledge, and you know that, then you have gone to extended abstract. But then it moves away from being chemistry only, it integrates tourism, which is in geography. And it integrates entrepreneurship, because you must market such containers in a shop. So you are linking different ideas together to see the big picture. So it is not enough to teach tourism without knowing the elements of the cold conditions on mountain Renzori as a climber of the mountain. And then you need to know where to buy those materials from. Business location in entrepreneurship. So that is what solo taxonomy is trying to tell us. We can move next. So when I asked you to suggest one of sports that you engage in, you brought all of these ones. I'm not going to take a lot of time because we have mentioned them. We can move. The equipment required that can be made from local materials. When you look at these sports equipment, you can look at many of them. And we have local materials that we can use to make them. It is possible. So, and this one tells you, I've seen some people using local materials and they are selling them for us who want to do the basic skills in physical education. They are making them and they are selling them using local materials. So they have moved from just being local materials for physical education, and they have included entrepreneurship in it. They have seen an opportunity to make a profit. So that is key. Next, we move to the next. So locally available materials for volleyball can be balls, woven banana fiber, old cloth with rags, rubber from old tires, wrapped tightly. We can make nets, we can make poles, bamboo, poles, eucalyptus tree. We can mark the courts using chalk, using stones, using silt soil or ash. If it is soccer, balls, goal posts, field marking, the corners, you can put there stones or empty tins, empty water bottles filled with sand, and you mark the field for soccer. So those are available. I didn't want to take because the time is running. Next. So you break your activity into three. The concrete experience, if I want them to make a ball, so I bring a ball to the class. Then I can draw the picture. After that, I can ask them to go in the library and read about balls and how they are made. Or I ask them to go on the net and look for digital content about balls making. Me as the educator, in all these stages, I will be an observer, I will be a guide, I will be a coach, and I will find out what they can do. Next. So we need to, the first step is to know the enduring concept, something that will last years in somebody's life. Then how are we going to get the acceptable evidence that they know what is enduring? Then we plan the activities that we are going to use to teach the enduring idea. Something that will be there for years and years is the first thing we identified. And we put it in a context, our Ugandan context, like saying, how do you use local materials to make these ones? I can make a javelin disc using local materials. We move to the next. So I've done this practically at NCDC. I trained some member. I took them to where there is banana plants growing. I asked them to collect local material that we can use to make sports equipment. And they did make the balls. But I took them also to the playground just below Chambogo College School. There were some kids that were playing, and I took that picture from there. How the ball they are making, how it is being used by some younger kids. So I was trying to say, making the ball is relevant to society. It has meaning in society. So these 3 opportunities were there, and they had real first-hand experience. Before we could make any notes, before we could go to Google or internet, we do a real hands-on. So what comes first, what comes next, and what comes last should be your key. It is the same concept, but you are delivering it in many ways that will create enduring learning. We move to the next. So I could do, and this is picked from Jerome Bruner's theory of cognitive development. So even you can draw. I was trying to show you how lines and shapes in fine art becomes part of physical education. Drawing, then making the ball. There is a gentleman around the center who is making these balls and selling them on the roadside. So, and it is Jerome Bruner's theory of cognitive development. How do we cognitively, how do we work on the mind of the people to ensure they get enduring learning? Next. So in all that, I'm doing translation and experiential learning. That is, it will involve that ideas get mixed up until you synthesize what can work for you from different sources. So we talked about translation. I don't want to take a lot of it, but its main goal is to make the thinking visible. Can the thinking become visible through engaging learners in co-creation? And when they do that, DEA will come out very well. The generic skills will be integrated, and you will be good to go. Next. That is the lesson part. The next part is PBL, where you are going to get many opportunities to study PBL this year around, because NCDC is ready to train you on PBL. But what is it? It involves planning and designing activities. Let us move. I would want to ask 3 people to tell us the events they celebrate as a family in each year. In the chat, I want some answers. Christmas, yes. Birthday, yes. Those are 2. I want the 3rd one. Wedding, 3. Eid, 4. Easter, Eid, Easter. We can stop at that and move to the next question. What things do you consider when preparing to celebrate that event? If you are going to have one event that I already mentioned, tell me the things you consider. One person is saying food, meat, the time, the people, the food, the preparation, the music, the money, the venue, the number of people, the decorations, drinks, the budget, alcohol, public address system, entertainment, church service. So we can stop at that, and a camera for capturing the memories. I can say the responses you are giving is what the teacher or the educator has to do when is going to prepare for teaching and learning. The preparation, the planning, and the design involves all those things you've mentioned. And it starts with the standard. What is the standard of a birthday? What is the standard of an Eid day in the Muslim world? What is the standard of an introduction in Kuhingira, in Mbarara? What is the standard of circumcision in Mbale? So in the school, the standard is the national curriculum. Let us continue. We continue the next slide. So planning means deciding what you want to do and when. While designing is deciding how it will look like or work for you. So when we choose one method of teaching and learning, we plan and we design it. The two are important. You must plan. I don't want to go in Mintzberger's theory of planning, but it has 5 P's. First is to plan. The second one is to choose those activities which you know they meet your immediate need and they will meet the learner's future needs. Then we have phases. You chew what you can swallow. Do not overplan. Chew what you can swallow. Then the next one is position. You choose a place to stand. Are you going to be in the observation stage, the guide stage, or you wait for the product? You continue changing the position of your role as an educator. Then finally, what is that enduring goal you are fighting? To see the terminal goal. That is called perspective in fine art or in similarities and enlargement in mathematics. So perspective is key in terms of strategy. We continue. Next. So in history, I want to use history where people moved. And the concept of movement in one part of history is called migration. So my first question I would ask, why do people move? The concept of migration includes slave trade. Because Africans were taken to America and they migrated to America. So we have, they call them American Africans or Afro-Americans. I don't know. They are there. They moved. But migration, which you see, is similar to urbanization in geography. Because people come from their villages and crowd themselves in cities. They have migrated. So I can now create a question. How can we help new immigrants in our city feel welcome? Will you get an answer to that in a day, in a week? How will you get the answer? Is it written anywhere? Is the welcome the same in Kampala as it is in Kisumu or in Saudi Arabia or in Japan? Is the welcome the same for immigrants? Definitely no. If somebody is coming from those countries and is coming to our community, do we welcome them the same way? Definitely no. Do they come in the same fashion? Like where I live, some people come as owners of pieces of land, and they are the landlords. They have migrated from somewhere, they have bought a plot, and they establish themselves there. Others come as house helpers. Others come as potters on buildings. Others come as traders. How do we make them feel welcome? All of those categories. So I don't know which teacher has the answer to that, but it is talking about an activity which can teach migration better, a method which can teach migration better. But also it is teaching urbanization better, because I can ask, will they face some challenges as you try to make them welcome to your city? And you will see the problems of urbanization emerging, but they have migrated. So all of these interplay, and that is what project-based learning is looking for, that you can choose a topic in the syllabus and teach it in a different way using project-based learning method. So project-based learning is a method of teaching, and it is interdisciplinary. It covers many topics as I'm trying to elaborate. So we can move next. So a driving question is important, like the one I've given above. It is open-ended, provocative, and motivating. If I got food and nutrition and there is a topic called healthy eating, if you want to do surface learning, you can ask, how can we learn about nutrition? That is a surface question. You can learn about nutrition by reading a book or by somebody standing and just talking like I'm talking. But if you say, how can we create a healthy lunch menu for our cafeteria that learners will actually want to eat? The learning there is enormous, and it will take not less than 2 weeks to be able to create a menu for the cafeteria entrepreneurship entering in, and the learner be willing to eat it. And which type of learners? Aged between 12 and 20. Their likes and dislikes are enormous. You'll have to address all of that in the cafeteria. We are not yet having cafeterias in many schools, but the future is that when the boarding schools start phasing out, we shall get cafeterias in our schools. Next part. So a driving question must have meaning for the students, like the cafeteria and a lunch for students. It has meaning for them. It will require the learners to apply knowledge to address the issues. It will require them to conduct some gathering of more facts. And it will give you, as an educator, opportunity for formative assessment through exploration. as the learners explore, because they will have to make interviews and summarize how many dishes can be put on the menu. They have to do some statistics, collect data, tallies, and so on. But it is aligned to the national standards, the learning outcomes. Healthy eating in food and nutrition. Next. Another one is here. How can we use technology to track a drink from vegetable leaves for our own fitness? One, it is best in ICT. They have to devise a technology that can track. It has agriculture, production of vegetable leaves. It has FN, making drinks or value addition in agriculture. But it has physical education, our own fitness. What satisfies our own fitness? So that is a driving question for a learner at secondary school. And to be able to address this or learn this, learners will need not less than 2 weeks. And they are answering how they arrive at that technology. What informed their making of that technology? It will not be a one-day's business. So that is project-based learning. It's going to be introduced to you this year by NCDC. They will be training, and they will want you to have you creating driving questions. Next, we got the next slide. So a healthy drink for our fitness now introduces biology, chlorophyll, as an important material the body needs to as an antioxidant, cleaning our blood and binding heavy metals and removing them from the body. Chlorophyll. So it has become a very big business now. People are selling it to us. Next. Project-based learning starts with a launch. When you have made the driving question, you must launch it. There must be an event of launch to capture the students and create excitement. Like I can have the students and I take them to a bush where there are many butterflies. And then I tell them to walk and they will see many butterflies flying into the air. That would be a field trip. But I can get a guest speaker who speaks about butterflies. I can have a short video. But I can have a real life experience, as I've already mentioned. Now, this one, it is the biology teacher who is concerned first because he has a topic. Insects. Butterflies are insects. We move next. So the children now can start asking themselves, why butterflies are so many here? When we walked into the bush, why did they fly? They seek new answers, discover many new things. So a driving question should make the learner want to know more and why. They need to try out activities, to investigate, to look beyond the obvious. And also, you as an educator, to accept that you don't have all the information, the children can find it by themselves. but also making the learners to be engaged and have fun around their topics they are studying. Then make them to find responses or ideas that answer the issues they are finding out. They become creative. Next, so curiosity is built around a driving question. For the butterflies, I have a driving question here. How can we create butterfly-friendly habitats to help our community live more sustainably? Because if we went where they are, that was a friendly habitat. But when we stepped there, they started flying. We were making their life difficult. So the question is, why do we need them in our community? Why should we have a friendly habitat for them? What makes it important that our community, if it is to be sustainable, it must have butterflies? How can we attract them if they have escaped? Which plants that are native can we use for this? What are the characteristics of those plants? How can we grow those plants? Why do the butterflies come to these plants? What body parts of the butterfly help them to visit those plants and stay there? Why do we say so? So these and many other questions, if the learners are able to have them, too good. But the first task, because for us, we are coming into project-based learning late. In other countries, they start project-based learning in primary 4-5. That is when they start project-based learning. They start teaching project-based learning in primary 5. And there is a book, Sustainable Project-Based Learning as a Method of Teaching 5 to 12, K5 to K12 in other systems. So project-based learning is a method of teaching, but it starts with a driving question. If you don't have a driving question, then what you are doing is called identifying a problem, and you use a problem tree analysis. And then you end into doing a project, because you have identified a problem and you are finding a solution to it. It may not be aligned to the standards of the curriculum. Like I have water here running through a trench from all the houses, and somebody says, oh, there is wastewater here smelling for us. Can you help us? I can ask, which is syllabus area is it covering? Or you say, the women do not have firewood. Can you make energy-saving stoves for them? Already you know the answer. In project-based learning, there are very many answers depending on how the learner interacts with the driving question. But it covers very many topics and very many disciplines at the same time. Like this one for insects, we'll cover biology, we'll cover agriculture, and the two already will be there. But as you go in establishing the garden, you will find that you are going outside the agriculture, you will need to go to entrepreneurship and use a business model canvas. For which if you are growing one crop, will it require the same things as another to attract the butterflies? No. So you will need a business model canvas, which demands that you have a value proposition. You choose one plant which attracts butterflies. So if I have 200 learners, I can have 10 different plants grown to attract butterflies. Each plant will become a value proposition of attracting butterflies or making a habitat which is friendly for butterflies, and there will be 10 different habitats that are friendly. So I can have even 20 plants because they are there that attracts butterflies and they create a friendly habitat for them. We move to the next. So I can choose tiki berry. In Uganda, it is called kayuchi yuchi, or lantana camara if I'm in science. So I can choose that one to attract butterflies, and they will be there. And the flowers are very, very important to the butterflies. That's why I chose it. And when you go to the topic of flowers, it is not the same as the topic of insects, but in biology, they have put them apart. The flower is somewhere else, the insect is somewhere else, but this is the same concept. And you need to teach them very close to each other. So, and when we are doing horizontal analysis of curriculum, when the people in agriculture are teaching crops, that like many of the crops, and they are teaching about weeds, sticky berry is regarded as a weed, but flowering plants or flowers, floriculture in agriculture should be taught together with the topic of insects, should be taught together with the topic of flowers, growing flowers. So those should be together. They should go hand in hand. They should occur in the same term, such that the learner gets a complete story. Next, I can choose the next crop, sunflower. And this is, some people call it a legume. So legumes, flowers, and insects must go hand in hand. So they also attract butterflies. So children can do that. Next. So to execute this, you must plant the sunflower. You must plant the tiki berry. You must plant the hibiscus. Unfortunately, the biology teachers only take hibiscus because it is the one in that book of 1963, Introduction to Biology by McKean. That is what they teach. And when the Europeans were coming here, they made sure at each school they plant there a hibiscus. But we can use any other plant. The concept is one being delivered. Hibiscus is just one situation. Sunflower is another one. Tiki berry is another one. Roses is another one. But they were taught separately such that we don't get meaning in real life. And that is my challenge when I look at the knowledge-based curriculum. People did not want us to have meaning of what we are learning that supports our life after school. Next. So I wanted people to rank at these. We read and you tell me what is number one among these. What is number one? What is the most important? Kaziba, do you see anything in the chat of the most important?
Okay, let me look and see what people are saying. Someone is saying passion.
There are
Okay.
4 statements on the screen where we need ranking.
Doreen says the one for planning.
Planning, that is number 3. Yes, that is good. Another one?
They are still thinking.
In the interest of time, number 3, somebody has said again, I see that. But let us now move to the next slide. One who has said, the ranking is that engagement is key. Number 4 should be the first one, followed by 3, then 2, and 1. But the number 1, the key takeaway, the most important principle in project-based learning is engagement. And the students must care about their work. So you structuring and planning comes next to ensure projects succeed. That is the planning. It must be manageable. And assessment can be both group and individual. It is group because we want to promote collaboration, as mentioned from the beginning. Project-based learning promotes collaboration, which is a 21st century skill. And engagement is the most important principle in project-based learning. And then you work in groups for collaboration. So you can assess the group output and also assess the individual output. You do both. There must be a balance between the two assessments. Let us continue to the next. So during project-based learning, there are 4 principles that we need to focus on. Creating their own understanding and knowledge, key. Collaboration is key. Contextualizing, relating it to real life is key. And taking responsibility of your own planning, monitoring, reflecting, while the teacher or the educator is a facilitator who scaffolds through asking questions. You don't give them answers, you just pose questions to them. Don't tell them, give them questions like Socrates did using the 6 W's. Next. So project-based learning demands that it is experiential. Again, callable experiential learning comes in. The learners must demonstrate achievement of their learning by seeing a product or a service as a public product or a service for the public to see. You use questions, as I've said, the 6 magic W's, and you collaborate with adults and the community. Project-based learning must be presented to adults and the community members, not the school members like we are doing right now. The output of project-based learning must be presented to the public outside the school. Or you organize, like during our time, we used to call it speech day. And you invite every Tom and Dick to come and see what the children are doing with learning. Not only parents, like in some schools, they have started inviting parents for the children to see, or for the children to exhibit their work. It should be the adults in the community around the school. Next. In your subject groups, this is your homework. You need to develop a comparing, open-ended driving question that will stimulate inquiry and enable learners address selected learning outcome. And I will ask Kaziba to get these on the Padlet gallery such that we are able to see what you have picked from creating a driving question. Next. Driving question format, you can use the word what How can I, can we, can you? Then the what is that, the who is the we or you. Action must be there. What are they doing? Then audience, and in which location. For instance, what role can you play in preserving and sharing Uganda cultural heritage? This is an historical question. And then the learners will demonstrate that. But for who and for why is what is missing in that. The next one, how can we design a suitable bedside table for younger children to be used for reading at home? This is for technical drawing or technology and design. Then the next one, how can we stop the spread of flu in our school? This is for mathematics, but it integrates biology, viruses, it integrates statistics, and so on, and disease management. So all of those will be integrated. But the third one is purely mathematics. Next, so the open-ended question has why and how in it, and the people start thinking even more because of combining how and why. Next, open-ended questions, how can we, are often called open-ended, inquiry-based action-oriented questions. They are designed to encourage exploration and creativity, promote problem solving and critical thinking, invite collaboration. That's why we are saying, how can we? It means together. And multiple possible solutions. The answers are not one. It's not a one-size-fit. They focus on practical application, not recall of facts. So the open-ended question should not have anywhere where the answer is there, present. Like I see people saying, making a solar dryer. The answer is already there. So what are the children learning? Nothing. Because the solar dryer was made. So you just want to imitate, maybe. Next. So to get facts, you can't find elsewhere. That is the objective question. Subjective question is that these require you to get emotions, feelings, and perspectives. Then speculative, they are thought-provoking, and those are the ones that we need. They require you to have good skills for creative thinking. If you create an open-ended question which is only asking for facts, that is at surface learning. We need to take the learners to speculative questions that are thought-provoking, mind-boggling. Those are the questions that we need to ask. Next. So when you look at these religious rituals for Christians and for the traditionalists, you can create. In religious education, some people call them celebrations. They are religious rituals. Baptism is also a religious ritual. Worship is a religious ritual. So I get amused when somebody says, worship is different from celebration, is different from marriage, is different from baptism, and so on. The issue is religious ritual. Simple. That is the concept which we need to teach. and it can appear in different forms. Then we can create a project-based learning driving question, and learners will engage in them and produce for us very many responses. Continue. Next. So our driving question there will be, how can we promote mutual understanding and appreciation of religious rituals in our diverse community? That will be the question. So IRE can use it, CRE can use it comfortably, and African traditional religion will use it. The same driving question. But the issue is mutual understanding. How can you make the Muslim understand the Christians, understand the traditional religious people? They have mutual understanding. How can you do that? Have our CRE teachers done this? Our IRE teachers done this question? Does it have an answer? Somebody will say, yes, it has some written work. But which religious rituals are you talking about? That they have common understanding, mutual reciprocal understanding, and so on. So students will explore, compare, and promote respectful engagement with religious rituals under Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and traditional African religion in their community, fostering interfaith dialogue and culture sensitivity. The output, you can create a religious community booklet and present it, showcase the significance of these rituals with the suggestions for respectful participation and exchange. You can have a debate or a radio talk show on that mutual understanding. And you have a series of them, and the learners go to the radio talk show or TV show for a number of weeks to show that they are promoting mutual understanding. And when they do that, I've seen it in Aga Khan in Mombasa. They have done this, and they are far. Next. These are other examples, like we have just finished election is here. How can we increase voter registration among national elections first-time voters while addressing common barriers? How do you arrive at that? That's the election period we have just completed. Or how can we increase voter turn-up among the elites in the national elections while addressing common barriers? I'm aware very many elites do not vote. And that is why somebody says there are 21 million voters and you get 11 million voters, because many people are not voting. Then how can we promote religious rituals in different regions found in our community? Or how can we attract hummingbirds to exploit the direct and indirect effects in our community? If it is in local languages, how can we craft multilingual storytelling campaigns that preserve local culture tradition for future generations? And if it is literature, how can we be sharper than a serpent tooth in our community, avoiding the pitfalls as said in Nichenjilea? So you can create as many things. Driving questions are possible in all subjects, in all disciplines. And in Rwanda in 2017, it was introduced in all universities. Next. Because of this, the learning becomes differentiated and every learner to participate with their abilities. So we shall create many questions their ideas, they will show their logicness, kinesthetics will be moving, those who want personal skills, interview skills, and so on. And then we shall have the combo formed during this method of teaching. And it is not less than 2 weeks, a minimum of 2 weeks. But many times it takes a longer period to respond to a driving question. So you will get more guidance on that. Next, the characteristics I don't want to overemphasize. It is open-ended, engaging, aligned with the learning goals. It must be challenging according to the age. We have the primary questions, primary school questions, lower secondary and upper secondary, and university questions in project-based learning that we use as driving questions. It leads to a product or an answer, which is for the public. Next. So why project-based learning and projects? There are 5 reasons. Number 1, it is to look at the real world problems. It is to ensure critical thinking and practical application. And it is learner-centered. It is the learner to take the lead and take us far. Next. Where this one, Kaziba will share with you on the Padlet platform, and you will be making reflections whether your question you've set ensures investigation, collaboration, and critical thinking. Why and why not? Does it connect real-world situations for a known community? Are they open-ended questions which are broad, thought-provoking, and designed to guide inquiry? Are they clear and learner-friendly? So with all that, Kaziba, we can go to the next. The number of references you can read for project-based learning that I've put for you. One is Epoch Smith in 2018, Project-Based Learning Made Simple. It is online, you can get it. This one, Brad Sava, you can buy it on Amazon. The book which I showed you earlier on, you can buy it online. This one from Amazon, and they bring you a copy here.
Oh, Mr. Matthias, let me show them. You can show the book again. Okay.
Oh, it is here.
Perfect.
You can buy it on Amazon. Check for it. The author is Brad Sava. But also we have some Ugandans who have done the same work. Some few Ugandans. This one is for one Ugandan. This one responds to the UNEB questions or the checklist of UNEB by one person is called in the name I don't know here. But she's going to reach your schools with this one. Then the next one is this one. It's also a material that has been customized to Ugandan situation. This is for project-based learning. The first one responds very well for those who are teaching to the test. This is the book you need because it will help you fill the checklist very easily. So we go back to the other references, and I want to thank everybody for having participated in the activity. Kaziba can give us how many more minutes? For some people to pose some questions.
It is you, Matthias, to decide.
We have a round of questions. 10 questions in 2 rounds, 5 per round.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Now, those who have questions, you can either raise your hand or we are going to also respond. But I'm going to use the chat. Matthias, the first one. What are the 6 magic W's?
Okay. We go to the next.
You can share in the chat, but those who want, raise your hand and then you ask. Oh, now this one wants you to share the photos of the front pages of those books.
I've tried to do that because I've also do it on the Padlet.
Yeah. Yes, I don't know whether Gertrude, you have a question, but okay, another one is saying that agriculture. Okay, let me first pick this one from Soro Kojura. So,
Yes, yeah, good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
My question goes to Marcia's. Of recent, I attended the SSMA training for test origin, and we were handling the same. But what I want to know from you is when I come up with my driving question, do I still need to go ahead to make also the ones they call small questions? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay.
okay, thank you. So far, those are 2. Oh, okay, I think Soro, you have finished to ask. Okay, I think Matthias also, there is there is a confusion between project and project-based learning. So you are going to throw more light on that to show them the difference. Then another one, let me first speak on, yes, you Datadeo.
Yes, please. Mine is also a challenge that we are incurring. We always have limited time in class, and when we try to practice PJBL, sometimes we are caught up by time. So you can help us, guide us on that also.
Okay, thank you for that, for the question. Okay. Then, what has any CDC prepared? Okay, let me first speak on Rogers Mutambo. You can unmute Rogers.
So when Mutambo is there, Mutambo, we are not hearing you. Unmute. It seems he's failing to unmute. Mutambo.
Okay, maybe we take this one in the chat.
Okay.
I think it is what has any CDC prepared? Okay, it's not so clear, but like it is saying, how is any CDC preparing the school managers to facilitate the use of PBL? Because it takes a relatively long time to cover the syllabus.
So
Okay.
we can start with those.
Okay.
First, those who wanted me to show the books. You see, people want the quick answer. This one softens your work of completing the checklist. This one, my project workbook, quickens your life. So that is one book. The second book, I'm saying this one is project-based learning as a method of teaching. project-based learning as a method of teaching. So these are the Ugandan newly produced books. People saw an opportunity to make a living out of this area. So they have produced these two. Those who want detailed, more content on project-based learning, you need to buy this one from Amazon. But also, I want to inform you, VVOB is an organization working with secondary schools. It has brought the experts in the whole world to train some lecturers, and the lecturers are going to work with you under the project for 5 years, and they will be teaching you project-based learning, and they will have a module which will be certified. So when you go through the module, you will be taken as an expert in facilitating project-based learning. So that is a big opportunity coming on board in the next 5 years, between now and 2031. VVOB is having a lot of work it is doing with people here in the country. So question 1, what are the 6 magic W's? W number 1 is called, what is it? What? Number 2, who? Number 3, when? Number 4, where? Number 5, why? And number 6, how? Those are the 6 magic W's. Normally, we use them under Socratic questioning approach. But also we use them in writing paragraphs in English language and in communication. A good paragraph should be made of these 6 W's. At least a sentence or more on each of them. So I expect a good paragraph from a student. That is how I was taught during my secondary school. For us, we were writing paragraphs of not less than 6 sentences. But some mad people brought bullets and they killed that. So that is where the fight is now. People thinking about bullet points. A paragraph has one idea explained using the 6 W's. And now we are going there. We are trying to take you back at that time because it is important. Communication is by paragraphs or sentences. I'm not going into English now. Then the next question was about if you have the driving question. Thank you for being able to attend the SESEMAT training. It is another brick being added in the implementation of the competency-based curriculum. So you need to know the principle is one driving question has 120 follow-up questions. One driving question has 120 follow-up questions. And how do these questions come? Like if I ask, why do butterflies come to flowers? Then you will say, they are coming for nectar or pollen. Pollen? For what? Oh, why pollen? How do they get it? Where do they get it from? When do they get it? I'm only now talking about pollen or honey or nectar from a flower, and the butterflies are picking it. So, pollen will be the what? The butterfly will be the who? the time they come for getting the pollen will be the when. The point where the pollen is will be the where. The reason why they are picking pollen will be there. And how do they pick it will be there. So for only the pollen, those are 6 questions. But the butterfly, the who, will remain the same throughout all the other questions. So it is removed. And then we go to mathematics. How do you get the follow-up questions? You use mathematics. And we say you remain with the 5 W's and you do 5 factorial. 5 factorial, Kaziba, is it in permutation and combination? I don't know. Kaziba, 5 factorial is in which topic in A level? So 5 factorial means 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And this equals 120. So you can have 120. For you, you've called them follow-up questions. That is not the correct English. The questions are called follow-up. Or the technical word is they are called inferred questions. And it is by permutation and combination of numbers. That is the, if you are in mathematics, I can apply it in project-based learning. That's a very good way of applying permutation and combination that has meaning and is relevant to real life. So many times, some people come to you and tell you one thing, then you make some follow-up questions, then you are already in our business. So that is, they are called follow-up or inferred questions. Next question was the difference between project and project-based learning. I will start with project-based learning. This is a method of teaching. It is a method of teaching. Project-based learning is a method of teaching, which takes not less than 2 weeks. Project is a task. Project is a task. That is the main difference. The other one is a method of teaching. Project is a task to be done. So if you get that one right, methods of teaching, then you are going in pedagogy. Task is just an activity. And that's why you see these NGOs, they come to do a task in our communities and we say they are implementing a project. They just came to do a task. And they have the answer, the solution is theirs. And because it is not homegrown, at the end of the project, we don't see anything there. It is not involving. It does not have deeper learning involved. The projects people do in our communities collapse that very day. Because it is a task. When a task is completed, I can forget about it. So that is a clear difference, but you can read more about them on your own. One is a task, another one is a method of teaching and learning. Number 3, next was time for PBL is limited. Time required for PBL is long, correct? That is a correct thing. But it is learner-centered. The teacher's role, the teacher has 2 roles. One, to introduce the driving questions and the follow-up questions. And for you to introduce those, one lesson will be to launch the project-based learning method. You launch it. Like I told you, you can launch it in your 80 minutes by taking the children where you know there are very many butterflies. And then you ask a number of questions there. And at the end of that lesson, towards the end, you introduce the driving question. How can we create butterfly-friendly habitat to live sustainably in our community? But when they see the butterflies, you will ask them, what do you see? Hey, there are many butterflies. Why are they flying? You continue doing many follow-up questions. That is the launch. And through that launch, you introduce the driving question. The rest of the time, it is the students to choose when to do it. It is not your time. That is in 1 week you have done the launch. The second week, you bring them back to bring some 5 or 10 follow-up questions. And you assign them to the group members. Each person in the group will have a question to answer. But they produce a group output. One who just leads. So until all the 120 questions that you have created around the project, the driving question, are done, you introduce 10 per week. You don't give them the answers. Your role is to introduce the questions and they can do on their own. During their own time, if the question is for you are not 120, you can have about 30. Some people stop at 30, the majority, or 50 questions. So in 5 weeks, but you can now spread in a term and say, after the first 2 weeks, I will check where they are with the questions. And when they are responding to the question, they create documentation, which must be put in a portfolio. It is the portfolio that you will be looking at. And in the case of Kaziba, we put them on the Padlet platform. Each learner creates a Padlet platform to show where they are putting their answers. And for us, our duty, the teacher, is to check. And when you check that they are not going the direction you want, you put a question again during the next opportunity, another 80 minutes of the lesson, such that those who were going off come back at line by posing another question to them. So your duty is to interact with the portfolio and producing questions. But it is outside your time of teaching. They are doing it on their own. Your role is to put the kickstarts for each week. And if you give them 10 questions to answer, it will be really engaging. And you know when to introduce the question that will take them to start doing. You bring a question that forces them that now you must do. And during that week when they must do, you introduce the business model canvas where they will have a value proposition. They choose that, for me, I will grow lantana camara, tiki berry, another one, sunflower, another one, hibiscus, another one will say beans. Will attract what? Butterflies, with their reasons. And then you ask them a question that will tell them, go and grow. Such that we see. At Muyenga High School, it was done. All the flower beds ended up having different plants growing. And it was very clear. Each of these attracted butterflies. But the school became many colors. The flower beds became many colors appearing. And after that year, they were removed such that we can continue using the same space for another opportunity. But they retained a few of them. Hibiscus was one of them that was retained because it is a traditional flowering plant in the school compound. So time is there. but it is self-directed learning. The learner learning, or some people call it self-instruction time. The teacher is just a trigger, is a key holder, opens the door, and the learners go to exploration on their own using all available resources inside the school and outside the school. So this comes to the next question. How have you prepared the stakeholders? No, I don't want only the head teachers as you are thinking. We need to map out the stakeholders. We call it community mapping for teaching and learning. Community mapping for teaching and learning. Schools need to do this as a school activity. They map the community such that they use the resources around the school to learn and teach. For PBL, I understand, and I want to inform you that for me now, I'm no longer a work of NCDC. I retired last year, but NCDC, I'm aware, one of the things that was on the worker plan was to train secondary school teachers and administrators on PBL. The master trainers were trained last year in Nabingo, 300 for Eastern and Northern Uganda, and 300 for Central and Western Uganda. I hope the NCDC will get funding from the Ministry of Finance to implement the training for the school teachers using the master trainers that were trained in December last year. Leaving that alone, VVOB is charged to train 67,000 secondary school teachers. 67,000 teachers across the country on PBL, and also encourage them to do a continuous professional development in the next 5 years. They have money from MasterCard to train people on PBL. While British Council will be leading, again, training of these teachers on competence-based teaching and learning practices, how to deliver well and implement competence-based. Brainwave is another organization, will be leading you in career guidance for competence-based learning using physical and digital approaches. So in the next 5 years, they are expected to reach 2,091 schools. These organizations, they have funding from MasterCard. They are expected to reach 10 universities and influence the teacher training at undergraduate. Luckily enough, the minister in July 2025, asked all universities to change their program to prepare to receive the children who will be sitting senior 6 in 2026 in the university come August 2027. And the National Council for Higher Education has already created training material for the university lecturers on the minimum standards for competence-based learning at higher education. And the academic registrars were met this January of most of these universities to introduce them to the demands of competence-based teaching and learning. So the journey has begun. Hopefully, if we count 15 years, by 2035, competency-based learning will be part of our lives. And the time is over. So, Kaziba, do we have some more questions in the chat? I would pick on those in the chat.
Okay. This one is a bit more, but he was asking whether you could share maybe like a hint on the assessment of agriculture from your perspective. Then, okay, some people want your contact. Let me also check here. Members, there is a link I dropped in the chat. There is a link I dropped in the chat for registration. Okay. Okay, how can I tell you? Because no question. Okay, I'm reading through the link I sent. There are some questions that are there. How do we handle challenges of resources when handling PBL? Then another one is saying how and when to use PBL and what are the A-level construct for agriculture. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think let's take on those ones, Matthias, but the rest, they're just thanking you for the great facilitation. They're asking for your contact, how they can reach you, your email. Yes, because they want you to visit them at their schools. Okay.
So Kaziba will share the contacts. Thank you. I have given permission to share my contact. Number 2, I will start with Vogostikai. Vogostikai told us that people are at different zones of proximal development. Different zones of proximal development. Like I want to inform people that when I came to Kampala 45 years ago, I knew only 2 places, the bus park and Ntinda, where I was sleeping. In the 45 years, I've not known all the parts of Kampala. I'm still learning. My zone of proximal development 45 years ago has improved over time. It has become quite bigger, but I've not completed all. I want to use that to tell you that competency-based education, all of the stakeholders are at different zones of proximal development. So our understanding depends on our zone of proximal development. And what we share with others, that is what it depends on. I cannot say that I know it all. I want to have that disclaimer. I don't know it all. But from my side, because my truth depends on where I'm standing, and your truth also depends on where you are standing. And if there is a barrier, we shall be seeing different things. So having this is trying to say, let us remove the barriers and we start seeing the same things. So assessment of agriculture and what are the constructs. In agriculture, we have only 3 constructs. From the side where I stand, other people may stand differently. It is not their problem. It is where they are standing that is determining what they are seeing. Like if you go to geography and you are standing on one side of the hill called the leeward side and another one is standing on the rainy side, it may rain. The one on the leeward side will see only dryness. The one on the rainy side will see wetness and the soil becoming muddy. But they will be on the same contour above sea level. So from the side where I'm standing, there are 3 constructs. The first one is crop production. And this one has very many concepts. The second one is called animal production. And the third one is called value addition to agricultural products and services. And that is from where I stand and my zone of proximal development. For if you have a different one, that is okay, as I've demonstrated with the leeward side and the rain side, if you are on the same contour above sea level. So those are the constructs, but depending on where you are coming from, you can say different things. Then assessment should be based on those three constructs or at terminal level, only those three. And you are expected to do only 3 numbers, each one 45 minutes from the side where I stand. They should be scenario-based questions or performance-based items. Scenario-based. And a good scenario should be reflecting real life. It should be a situation picked from real life, how things are working in real life. And the duty of the learner is to do analysis and examination of the situation to identify the different facts, maybe, but the different concepts at play. So that is key. So when we do that, assessment of agriculture, how many constructs we have done. Then the last one was, how do we handle challenge of resources? The issue there, before the learners go into demanding that we want this resource, they should do what we call a business model canvas. That one should be introduced. Business model canvas. It is key. And for agriculture, the business model canvas was put in the learner's book, the prototype for agriculture, senior 1, because I knew that is where we are going with the team that I was working with in 2019. So on page, in the prototype, page 64, it is clear the business model canvas is there. This table here is the business model canvas. What are its components? It has 9 blocks. The first block is called a value preposition. What are they going to do in the project as a group? Are they going to grow tickberry, sunflower, hibiscus flower, roses? That is one example. So when they get their value preposition, the next one, what activities are involved in growing that crop? What are the activities? Then the third block, what resources are required and where are you going to get them from? They must know where they are going to get them from. It is not you to look for the resources. If you start looking for the resources for them, then you have become teacher-centered. You are not learner-centered. You are the one interfering with the process. So restrain yourself from telling the learners the resources. It is them to identify the resources they need and how they are going to get them. It is not your responsibility. It is not the administration's responsibility. It is the learner's responsibility. If I'm growing hibiscus, are the resources the same as the one who is growing tickberry? There may be some few which are similar. If I'm growing beans, do I need the same thing as the one who is growing sunflower or mangoes? If you want to grow mangoes that grow quickly, in 1 year and a half, you are harvesting the mangoes and they will have flowers that attract butterflies. For you to see the product, you have started it in senior 3 and 4. You want to do it senior 3, term 1, 2, 3, term senior 2, that's a senior 4, term 1 and 2. Those are about 1.5 years. If you do that, you are growing mangoes. You don't need the same resources as the one who is growing beans, which would take about 90 days. So resources, it is the responsibility of the learner. They should know where they are going to get them from and why they are getting those. Some will be given for free. They know where to get the things for free. I went to one school, BLK Muwonge, in Champis, towards Kayunga town. The students were making, how can you detect visitors inside your house before you open the door? And that was their question. How do you detect visitors inside your house before you open the door? One learner understood the resources was to use bamboo. Another one said wood, pieces of timber cut in the sewing machine. Another one said we are going to get gutters that are used for plumbing, or water pipes that are used for plumbing. Another one said, for us, we are going to get clay, and we shall make our hollow section for making that equipment that can detect visitors before we open that door. And I'm in physics. So they had to look for the clay. They had to look for a clean where they could fire their hollow section is that they will use. They had to look for how they are going to join them. They put, during the exhibition, it was clear. We had 8 exhibitions from different materials by the different groups. They came to an agreement and they learned a lot. And the parents were excited of seeing visitors before they can open the door. And the community members from the students' work. So it is possible. You don't need to be involved. The student who said it is wood timber, his father was a carpenter, so he brought the things for free. Those who said the clay, they just went to the swamp and collected the clay by themselves. So resources is not the issue. So that is the third block in the business model canvas. The next one, who are the key partners or stakeholders that you are going to work with? Who are the key partners or stakeholders you are going to work with within the school and outside the school? And why should they be partners? Number 5, what relationship will you need to ensure success? So here it is about dialogue, collaboration, negotiation, skills, networking skills. Number 6, what channels will you use to deliver your value proposition? Number 7 is the most important taught in China, the best way. It is called, what is your customer segmentation for your value proposition? So here, you need to, if you are making products for your value proposition or services, do like the Chinese, they don't miss any coin. The smallest amount possible, they produce a phone for it. And the phone for 350 million is there also. There is one for 30,000 and the one of 350 million. But all our phones, they have some basic features are the same. But the way they come out and the materials used changes the price completely. That is called customer segmentation. It is the same product, but serving different customers according to come as you are. Some people do that even in their lives. They serve every customer who is there. The one of 10,000 is served, the one of 30 is served, the one of 50, the one of 1 million. Then number 8, what are the costs or expenses to get that value proposition? So you do all of that computation. And number 9, what are the earnings? How would you earn? What are the earnings expected? And it reminded me, in 2000, I did a project-based learning activity where I decided to grow a blooming flower that elders want, geranium. And I had to sell it during Easter when I was studying one of the courses I was studying. It took, geranium takes about 90 days. So I started in January and I had to sell it on Easter Day in April. I had to take the timing appropriate. I had 150 plants because I was working individually. But the knowledge I learned about geranium was enormous. The only thing the teacher brought, how can you produce blooming flowers that can be a best fit for a festive season, period. And we were in floriculture. That was the topic we were covering. And the teacher did not teach us, or the lecturer did not give us any lesson. That was the only thing. One driving question, the rest is upon you. He would only come and check on us every week once for 1 hour, and that is all. So it is possible. I had to look for the resources. He didn't look for them. I had to support myself through all the requirements. Reading widely to see who wants which flower, even choosing geranium, because other people chose flowers that are different. For me, I chose for the elderly, people who are above 60 years of age. But I sold even to the younger people because I would ask them, do you have a grandee? Do you have a friend who is 65 years and above? Do you want to buy for him or her a flower? I have some here. So during the week of pitching our product or public presentation exhibition, I had to sell, and the communication skills that I had to employ have paid me off all the years since 2003. How do you interact with people you don't know? How do you make them buy what you have to sell? Those are issues, but it was part of, and we did not have any lecture on floriculture. That was all. And the module was done. The portfolio spoke millions of words for us. The reflections in the portfolio were enormous. The reflective paragraphs for each week were enormous. All of that, we need the CPD by VVOB to continue learning what PBL is. I want to most warmly thank all of you for being here for the last 3 hours also, and for Holistic Education for organizing this opportunity for all of us. Thank you so much, all the participants, and I wish you a successful day today. Bye for now. Over to you, Kaziva.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthias, for the wonderful presentation, for being able to respond to all the questions. I'm very sure everyone here, you are not leaving this place the same way. The recording is going to be shared with you. We shall share it on the YouTube channel such that you can follow up, you can revisit it, such that this year we do better. Mr. Matthias has given us an assignment that each one of us you must look at your subject, develop a driving question, and those driving questions, we are going to post them. And then we shall evaluate we shall evaluate how our questions are. So we are going to share, we are going to share a link, the Padlet link, where we are going to keep having our work, because we need to collaborate. If we want to have our learners achieve the learning outcomes and be better, we must collaborate as schools. Let's not compete at all. We just need now to collaborate. So we are going to utilize the WhatsApp group we have shared, and that group that we have joined is a professional group. So whatever thing we are going to share there, it is for our professional development. For those who have not been able to join us for the past sessions, we shall share the links for the past videos. We have been able to handle different areas, and I know we shall have Mr. Matthias back at one point because his schedule is a bit busy, but we shall have him back because there is another part we want to handle. So we shall have him back, but in case you need him, you want him to come and visit you at your school to sharpen the axe, feel free. I've shared his contact. You can reach out to him. He's going to be very supportive, such that you become a better person. And he's one of my mentors. Is where I have reached. It has been his effort. So let's utilize him. Let's give him all the questions you may have. He will be able to support you in whatever thing you need. I think some people didn't get the group link. I'm going to share it again. Here, such that those who are not yet there, you can join. You can join that group. I'm saying we have few spaces, but it's okay. Let me share it here. It is that one. But also you can join that one. In case it gets full, we shall share the second, the second link. Then allow me to share Mr. Matthias's number again in the group, such that you can reach him. But also I think I better display it here for those who want to reach him. Because I know some of you are not on the group yet, but you may want to ask something. This number is on WhatsApp. You can ask something on WhatsApp. You can give him a call. Yeah, that's the number. Hope you can see it on my screen. That is the number. You can reach out to him via WhatsApp. Okay. Okay, people are telling me the second group is full. The group I've shared is full. Okay. Hope you have taken note of the number. Okay, let me share another link for the group. Let me share another. We have two groups, but we share the same things. So just stick to one group. You don't need to be in both groups. One group is enough. We shall always share the same materials in both groups, and we communicate the same messages. And this year, our focus is on teacher development. We want to see you that you are doing much, much better than ever before. So we are going to keep on having these trainings. Every holiday, at least we are sure we always have a training. Second term, we always have seminars, we have workshops. So we shall keep on communicating on those groups such that we can have everyone on board. Yesterday, we looked at technology bit of it. We showed you how to use technology to generate those lesson plans, to generate schemes of work, how you can use technology to generate some of the lesson activities, how you can create some videos for your lessons. So you can look at that, but we shall keep on having other sessions going forward. The recording is going to be shared, but we want to thank you so much. The whole of this week, we have been here together, learning and learning and learning. We shall continue to have these sessions such that we can sharpen the axe, like Mr. Matthias told us, and we become better teachers. This country, to be better, we must be better. And these learners, when you look at them, you see that at least they have reached very far in some of these things. So we need to support them to become much much, much better. With that, allow me to invite Mr. Matthias to give us the last closing remarks. I don't know, Teacher Agnes. Okay, let me first call on Teacher Agnes before Matthias comes. Teacher Agnes? Oh, okay.
Hello.
Yes, yes. Let me invite you to first say something. Yes, Teacher Agnes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kaziba. I'm grateful for the work that you're doing for this country. I just enjoy listening to you and everything that you bring for us. I enjoyed the session, Mr. Mulumba. Thank you so much. I encourage each teacher that is come here not to go away because you're going to learn lots of things. Thank you so much, Mr. Kaziba.
Okay, thank you so much, Head Teacher. Teacher Agnes is one of the administrators at Hope, and I'm very happy to have you. Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Matthias, the floor is yours to tell teachers anything, and then we close off the session.
Okay, thank you all for the active participation that we have had. As we bring this training to the closing minute, I want to express my heartfelt appreciation of your commitment, your curiosity, the questions you have given me, and collaboration. Together, I hope we have explored concepts and learning outcomes as a way of delivering the competence-based education. We have also reminded ourselves of the methods of teaching and put a lot of effort to know project-based learning as a method that empowers learners to tackle real-world challenges. And we're trying to see that they get deeper learning. PBL is not just a method, it is for deeper learning, moving away from surface learning and how things work in real life. It is a promise, and it asks us to start small and build up our capacities and skills. We need to collaborate widely to share our insights, to seek clarifications, and to co-create knowledge together. Because you may know one piece, Kaziba knows another piece, Teacher Namiro knows another piece. And when these are put together, we form our own understanding and our deeper learning of issues around us, and we keep abreast with what is happening in the education landscape. We need to keep up to date. So thank you for being part of this journey today. Let us continue to engage, to inspire each other, and to lead others with purpose. Be intentional in what you do, that it becomes impactful and enduring in our society. Until next time, keep learning and keep leading. Thank you.